Chapter 452. Kishir had given the diary to Anon as promised, but he hadn't forgotten that his original plan to examine it with his assistant had been unexpectedly thwarted. Thanks to that, Yudhir received the translated version of the diary the very next day after their deep conversation. It was a translation written in Kishir Laor's own handwriting. Yudhir wondered when he had found the time to write it all. Kishir explained that he had diligently read and transcribed it in the few hours while Yudhir was meeting with Anon. When reading difficult texts, it helps to take notes as you go along. This is just a first draft, so don't read too much into it, he said with a casual smile, the image of which still lingered in Yudhir's mind. Although Yudhir didn't have the time to read the translation immediately, he stashed it in his bag, planning to review it as soon as he could. While Kishir and Baron Kiolt were wrapping up their conversation, the cavalry had almost finished loading most of their baggage onto the wagons. All that remained were the farewells with the guests who had come to see them off. Yudhir once again exchanged greetings with Micklin Punt, the leader of the Western Mage Union, who had arrived a bit later than Baron Kiolt. Micklin mentioned that he would be stopping by the Pearl Tower for research and would later attend trials related to the West in the capital. He hinted that he would like to visit the cavalry headquarters if possible. Of course, I will have to see Thais Yulman's face there as well, but that's a small price to pay. Micklin might meet Helm when he arrived, but he didn't recognize another robed mage who was deeply hooded and hiding her face. It seemed that Helm had no desire to personally greet him. By the way, I heard that the western branch of the cavalry is to be established here. Is that true? Yes, and we would appreciate any support from the Western Mage Union. That's a given. The cavalry has been a valuable research sponsor and an ally in many regards. With Baron Kiolt, we will have a much smoother relationship than with Wilhelm, Micklin assured, laughing heartily. Although he hadn't attended Wilhelm's party, he had swiftly stepped in to assist the cavalry in the chaotic aftermath. He reached out to the noble contacts to suppress malicious rumors and subtly aided Baron Kiolt as well. As a result, Yudhir's impression of him had improved. He probably stepped in more eagerly to prevent Baron Wilhelm from returning, but he did act appropriately, and that helped us sort things out quickly. The resentment against Baron Wilhelm among the mages was profound. The Western Mage Union planned to testify about the various misdeeds he had committed against them over the years during this trial. After expressing his lengthy wish that Wilhelm would receive a punishment that would prevent him to return to Tainu, Micklin's face lit up as he turned toward Kishir. Many had seen their fates change due to recent events, but Micklin Punt seemed to be one who had changed in the most favorable way. Next to say their goodbyes to Yudhir were Robel and Marty. Though their eyes looked tired, as if they'd spent many nights in deep thought, Marty appeared noticeably more cheerful. After talking it over with Robel, we have decided to accept the offer you made, Your Grace, Marty said. Listening to Marty's soft whisper, Robel wore a look that was both pained and in love. Adapting to the abilities is one thing, but I thought it would be better to stay for the sake of the villagers who haven't regained their memories yet, especially after hearing that Emon, who helped us so much along with Priest Lusan, has taken charge of the Western Branch. I felt it would be disgraceful to leave just like this. You needn't feel indebted, came the reply. Yudhir looked at the two anxious faces awaiting his answer, let out a soft sigh, and then smiled. Everyone will be delighted to hear the news, Emon included. I am, of course, no exception. If anything happens, please contact us through the Western Branch. Emon had been a frequent aide to Priest Lusan, along with Finn. No one knew better than Marty how tirelessly Emun had taken care of those who had lost their memories. Marty was filled with immense gratitude and a sense of indebtedness toward him. Although the presence of these two might seem inconsequential now, either thought they would be a key to shaping the atmosphere of the Western Branch according to Kishir's wishes. Rubel, who was a local and well informed about the Star of Nagran, and Marty, who had an uncanny knack for situational judgment, would likely prove more useful than they even realized. "Thank you, sincerely," they said. Seeing either smile, the two wore perplexed expressions for a moment before suddenly breaking into relieved smiles and departing. Not far away, the few who had regained their memories surrounded Luzon, shedding tears of gratefulness. "Priest, please come again someday. Next time, we want to greet you in a better state. We will never forget this kindness, even in death." "What have I done? Oh my! When did you all make these? How many times have I told you to rest?" Receiving their handmade hats, gloves, and small crafted gifts, Luzon blushed and appeared equally at loss. Despite their multiple farewells, they couldn't bring themselves to let go. So steeped were they in gratefulness. Elsewhere, Ever, holding a small cat, was happily chatting with Kana. Yudhir watched a faint smile as he observed the comfortable demeanor of Napoleon Fontaine he hadn't seen in a while. Despite being separated from Pruel, the well-behaved cat had spent most of its time quietly in Ever's room. Kana, who joined them late, was initially shocked to discover the cat's identity, but quickly adapted and treated Napoleon very well. Napoleon also seemed to find Kana very comfortable, as far as Yudhir had heard. The kitten, who appeared to have no concern for what had become of the father it had nearly forgotten, yawned widely. Its tiny but quite sharp canines flashed briefly before disappearing. "Oh my God, what do I do? Even its yawn is too cute to handle." While Kana shivered at the excessive cuteness, the cat suddenly pricked its whiskers and ears, reacting to something. At the end of its gaze stood a young man with red hair, wearing an awkward smile. It was none other than Pruel Fontaine, who had entrusted Napoleon here, his elder brother. As promised, he rushed here as soon as the process of approving the successor within the Tain Duchy had reached a conclusion. To those unaware of the situation, it seemed pointless for him to come only to see the cavalry leave for the capital soon after. However, he had a duty to ensure his younger sibling's safety, so it was a non-issue for him. However, with Kana, whom he had just greeted, and the still unfamiliar Ever, he found it oddly difficult to approach them when they were together. Yudhir turned his head away again, watching Pruel take several deep breaths with a resolute expression before approaching the ladies courteously. While helping to maintain the law and order, other members of the cavalry had built friendships with the residents of the West. They greeted various people here and there, shaking hands and bumping shoulders. There were some who watched from a distance, clearly dissatisfied, but they dared not voice their criticisms openly. Amid the sighs of regret, there were glimpses of hope and laughter for the future, a sight he had never seen in his past life. Yudhir slowly moved towards a black carriage in the middle of the procession that was laden with baggage. Surprisingly, the unremarkable-looking carriage had no baggage inside. In its empty space lay a lone member of the Star of Nagran, Hosanna. He still hadn't woken up. Though his external wounds had healed and his internal injuries were nearly recovered, Hosanna had not awoken by the day of departure. If it was the first time he had overused his abilities, it might be understandable. But if days passed and he still did not wake, Yudhir wondered if another method would have to be employed to rouse him. Yudhir carefully closed the carriage door to avoid drawing attention and sat down. He hadn't had much opportunity to observe Hosanna closely before, but the young man appeared so frail and thin that one might believe him to be a teenager. Yudhir recalled the words Lusan had used to describe him. He never seemed to be a healthy person to begin with. His inability to properly use one leg likely worsened his condition. However, as a teleporter, he shouldn't have had a problem with mobility. As Lusan had noted, one of Hosanna's legs bore a terrible scar. Lusan had said the wound was neither congenital nor old, but had been attempted to be treated many times. However, the failure to heal was attributed to his poor health and challenging circumstances. It's unfortunate, but it's too late. The leg has already hardened like this. If I keep pouring divine power into it, it might improve somewhat, but fully restoring it will be difficult.